I could still hear my father's voice echoing in my head as I stepped into that lavish office. You'll get nothing from your grandfather's will, Emily. Nothing. He had said it with such certainty, with such cruel pleasure, that for a moment I almost believed him. To my father, I had always been the weakest link in the family, the overlooked daughter, while my brother, Jason, carried the pride of his name. When I sat down at the long mahogany table surrounded by greedy relatives with hungry eyes, I held tightly to my grandfather's pearl bracelet, his final gift to me, as if it were a lifeline. My heartbeat thundered in my chest as the lawyer adjusted his glasses and flipped through the pages. Across the table, my father leaned back with a smug smile. Jason smirked, too. But then the lawyer glanced up, looked directly at me, and smiled. And in that instant, I knew everything was about to change. My name is Emily Carter, and if you ask my father, Richard Carter, he'll tell you I was born to disappoint him. I don't say that with bitterness. It's simply the truth I grew up with. To him, Jason was everything: brilliant, ambitious, ruthless, the perfect heir to the Carter name. And me, I was the daughter who was expected to stay quiet, marry well, and disappear into the background. I remember one dinner vividly. Jason had just brought home another flawless report card. Straight A's in economics. Dad lifted his wine glass, pride glowing on his face. Jason is the future of this family, he declared, raising his glass like a toast. Then his gaze shifted to me, his voice turning sharp. And you, Emily, should focus on finding a wealthy husband who can put up with you. The table went silent. My mother, Melissa, shot me a fleeting look of pity, but said nothing as always. Jason chuckled under his breath, relishing my humiliation. I stared at my plate, cheeks burning, vowing not to let them see me cry. But not everyone in the Carter family dismissed me. My grandfather, William Carter, was different. Despite his empire worth billions and his commanding presence, he was warmth to me. He would sneak me out of the mansion for ice cream, sit me on the hood of his old Cadillac, and talk to me as if I mattered. You're my fighter, Emily, he'd say, tapping my chin with a smile. Jason may have the charm, but you've got grit. Those words carried me through the darkest times. And then he was gone. At his funeral, Jason stood tall beside Dad, the picture of the perfect son. I lingered on the edge of the crowd, clutching the bracelet Grandpa had left me. When I stepped toward the casket, Dad leaned in, his voice like poison in my ear. Don't expect a penny from him, Emily. You'll walk away with nothing, just like you deserve. The words cut deep. Still, I clung to one fragile hope, that Grandpa hadn't forgotten me. That somewhere in his $7 billion will, he had left me something more than scraps. What I never imagined was that he had left me everything. The day of the will reading arrived, heavy with tension. The law firm was one of those towering downtown buildings, marble floors, polished brass, a place that reeked of money and power. As I entered the conference room, the air was thick, buzzing with expectation. Relatives I hadn't seen in years clustered in corners, whispering, their eyes sharp and calculating. Aunts dripping in pearls, cousins in tailored suits, all pretending to mourn while tallying their share. Jason was already there, leaning against the wall in his tailored suit, looking every bit the golden sun. When he saw me, his lips twisted into that familiar smug smile. You actually showed up, he muttered. Of course, I replied, steadying my voice. He leaned closer, his words dripping with malice. Prepare to be humiliated. I clenched my jaw and walked past. At the head of the table sat my father, Richard, regal, cold, commanding. He didn't stand when I entered. He barely acknowledged me, tilting his head just slightly as if I were an intruder. Emily, he said smoothly, his tone laced with disdain. I almost told them not to expect you. My heart pounded, but I met his gaze. I wouldn't miss this for the world. A ripple of whispers stirred across the room. Some relatives smirked, others raised their brows, surprised at my boldness. I sat down, gripping Grandpa's bracelet, so hard my knuckles turned white. Then the door opened. Attorney Daniel Foster entered, tall and composed, his sharp eyes behind silver-rimmed glasses. He carried authority effortlessly. Placing a thick folder on the table, he cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We are here to read the last will and testament of William Carter. The room fell silent. Jason sat straighter, anticipation burning on his face. Dad leaned back, smirking confidently. Daniel opened the folder and began. To my grandson, Jason Carter, I leave the Fifth Avenue penthouse with all furnishings and a cash inheritance of $20 million. Gasps rippled through the room. Jason's grin widened, his victory radiating. He turned to me, mouthing, "Told you so." My stomach nodded, but I held my head high. I had been invisible too long to show weakness now. Then Daniel turned the page. His eyes lifted, meeting mine. A faint smile touched his lips. My father's smirk faltered. My pulse thundered. To my granddaughter, Emily Carter, I leave controlling interest in Carter Global Enterprises, along with all subsidiary companies, real estate holdings, and assets valued at approximately $5 billion. The room erupted. Chairs screeched. Voices rose in shock. Gasps filled the air like gunfire. Jason's smug expression crumbled, his jaw dropping. My father shot to his feet, his chair crashing back. "What?" he roared. "This is outrageous. There must be some mistake." Daniel's voice remained calm. "There is no mistake. These were William Carter's clear instructions." Jason slammed his fist on the table, rattling the glasses. "She's not capable. She's weak, naive. She'll destroy everything Grandpa built." For a moment, their fury blurred together. My pulse hammered, fear threatening to choke me. But then I looked at the pearls on my wrist, remembered Grandpa's words, "You're my fighter, Emily." I lifted my chin. My voice shook at first, but I forced it through the chaos. "Funny, Jason. Grandpa didn't think so." The room buzzed with whispers. Some relatives hid smiles, others leaned closer for the drama. My father jabbed a finger at Daniel. She manipulated him. She must have tricked him while he was sick. Daniel didn't flinch. Mr. Carter was evaluated by a psychiatrist before signing. He was of sound mind. His wishes are valid under the law. Dad's face burned crimson. Jason cursed under his breath. And me. For the first time, I sat tall. The overlooked daughter, the family shadow, now entrusted with everything. Grandpa hadn't just left me wealth. He left me his trust, his faith, his legacy. I met my father's glare and didn't look away. He slammed his palms onto the table, the sound rattling every glass. His voice thundered through the room. "Emily will ruin everything. She has no business sense, no leadership. Carter Global will collapse under her." Jason jumped in, contempt dripping from his tone. "He's right. She's never cared about the company. She's never even been in the executive offices. And now she's supposed to run an empire." My palms were slick with sweat, but I refused to falter. Slowly I stood. "You mean I'll ruin your plans?" I said, locking eyes with Dad. My voice cracked, then steadied. "Grandpa saw through you. He trusted me. Not you. Not Jason." Gasps echoed. Relatives exchanged glances. They had never heard me speak with such fire. Jason scoffed, throwing up his hands. "Trust? Don't make me laugh. I worked for years in that company. I know it inside out. And you wasted your time on books and charity events." I clenched my fists. "And I gave him what you never could, time. I listened. I cared. When everyone else treated him like a bank account, I treated him like family. He didn't choose me for numbers. He chose me because he knew my heart." My father's face twisted with rage. He leaned across the table until his face was inches from mine, his words searing. "You are an embarrassment. Jason and I built this name. You were meant to stay quiet, marry well, and stay out of our way. That's all you were ever good for." The words burned, words I had heard all my life. But this time, I wasn't the same Emily anymore. Something inside me shifted. I straightened my back, lifted my chin, and met his eyes. "No, Dad," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "Grandpa built this name, and he gave me the chance to carry it forward. Hate me if you want, but this legacy belongs to me now." Jason sneered, lips curling with disdain. "You don't even understand what legacy means." I stepped closer, refusing to look away. "It means more than greed, Jason. More than power. It means responsibility, something neither of you has ever grasped." The air grew heavy. my words hanging like iron in the stillness. My father stared at me, stunned that I hadn't backed down. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes, fear of my defiance. Before tempers could ignite further, Daniel raised his hand. His calm, steady tone sliced through the storm. Mr. Carter anticipated this conflict, he said evenly. That's why he left one more thing. From a leather folder, he drew out a sealed envelope. The moment it appeared, the room hushed. Thick cream-colored paper, pressed with red wax, bore William Carter's initials. This, Daniel continued, lifting it high, is a personal letter written specifically to Emily. The whispers began immediately. Aunts leaned closer. Cousins exchanged startled looks. Jason barked a bitter laugh, his voice dripping with contempt. Of course, another one of his sentimental games. He always favored her. Favored. I snapped, the words slipping before I could stop them. He loved me. My father's hand slammed flat against the table. We don't need to hear this. Whatever that envelope says, it changes nothing. Not the law. Not the truth. Yes, it does, I answered firmly, surprising even myself with the strength in my voice. Read it, Mr. Foster. Please. Daniel carefully broke the wax, unfolded the letter, and cleared his throat. Then William Carter's voice filled the room through Daniel's words. My dearest Emily, the world underestimated you, but I never did. I saw your strength in the quiet moments no one else noticed. You were the one who stayed by my side when I was weary. You were the one who listened when everyone else only demanded. I give you this empire not as a burden, but as acknowledgement of your strength and your heart. My vision blurred as tears gathered. I pressed the bracelet against my wrist, holding on to his voice echoing beyond death. Jason scoffed loudly. Strength? She doesn't even know how to balance a budget. But Daniel continued, his tone gaining force. Jason was raised in privilege. But you, Emily, understood humility. That is why I trust you. Not for what you know, but for who you are. Money can be earned or lost, but character endures. Guard it. Protect yourself. The room stilled. Even those who had once sided with my father sat silent, their expressions shifting, skepticism fading into something closer to recognition. My father's jaw tightened, rage simmering in his eyes. Delusional, he muttered. Manipulated. Daniel folded the letter with care, scanning the room. Mr. Carter wrote this 6 months before his passing, while in good health and sound judgment. His wishes are final. Silence weighed heavy. Jason seethed. My father glared. And inside me, something new sparked. Not just shock, resolve. Grandpa hadn't handed me his empire by chance. He'd left me his faith, and that faith was mine to carry. Jason's chair screeched as he shot to his feet, face flushed with fury. His breath came ragged, like a cornered animal. This is fraud, he shouted, his voice breaking under rage. You forged it. You manipulated him. Emily. There's no other explanation. Jason, Daniel began, still steady. But Jason wasn't listening. He swept his arm across the table, sending a crystal glass crashing into shards, water spilling over the polished wood, staining papers. You'll regret this, he roared, pointing a trembling finger at me. You've destroyed everything. That empire should have been mine. I rose slowly, my legs unsteady, heart pounding hard. But I kept my chin high. It was never yours, Jason. It was Grandpa's, and he chose me. Gasps rippled through the room, whispers breaking out like sparks. Jason's eyes burned. You're nothing. You've done nothing. I worked day and night at Carter Global while you hid in the shadows. And now you waltz in here, he slammed his fist into the wood, a faint crack splitting the surface, and steal it all. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms. I didn't steal anything. Grandpa trusted me. That's something you could never earn. Shut up. Jason roared, lunging toward me. Aunt Margaret screamed. 2 cousins jumped up, ready to hold him back. My father seized Jason's arm, yanking him away just before he reached me. Enough, Dad barked, though his voice carried no calm, only venom. He glared at me, his face twisted with fury. Over my dead body will you sit in Grandpa's chair. You are a disgrace, Emily. You always have been. The words cut deep, reopening familiar wounds. But this time, the pain didn't break me. It sharpened me. I raised my chin, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Then, you'd better get comfortable with being humiliated. I'm not stepping back. The relatives sucked in their breath again. The room buzzed with disbelief. Never before had I dared answer him like that. Dad's fingers shook as he jabbed toward me. You're weak, too soft. This family needs strength, not sentiment. Jason has the hunger, the ambition, the greed. I cut him off. He has your arrogance and your cruelty. That's exactly why Grandpa passed him over. Jason's face twisted, possessed by fury. Say that again. I met his glare without flinching. Grandpa knew you wanted control, not the burden that comes with it. And Dad, he knew you'd weaponize the family fortune the same way you weaponize your language. That's why he picked me. The room turned into a tempest. Voices crashed together. Relatives whispered. Some sided with me. Others shook their heads in shock. The chandelier above seemed to shiver beneath the strain. Jason tore his arm free from Dad's hold, his body quaking with rage. I'll contest this will. Fraud. Undue influence. I'll drag you through every court in this country until you're ruined and disgraced. Daniel's voice cut in like a gavel. You can try, Jason, but I promise you, your grandfather left no loose ends. Psychological evaluations, multiple witnesses, a thorough legal review. His wishes won't be moved in court. Jason froze, stunned by Daniel's certainty only briefly. Then his anger snapped back at me, hotter than before. You'll destroy everything, Emily, he spat. You're not strong enough. You're not clever enough. You're nothing but a mistake. The word stung. Still, this time I straightened. Maybe I am all those things to you, Jason. But in Grandpa's eyes, I was enough. Something shifted. I watched it cross faces. Relatives, board members. Their certainty wavered. For the first time, a shadow of doubt clouded Jason's golden boy sheen. Dad's voice dropped, venomous. We'll crush you, Emily. Mark my words. You won't last a year. I held his stare, my pulse now steady. Maybe I fall, I said. Maybe I fail. But I'll fall fighting for what Grandpa believed in. And that's something you've never done. My father faltered for the first time. His mouth opened, but no words came. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by Jason's ragged breathing. In that hush, I realized something enormous. I wasn't merely defending myself anymore. I was standing where Grandpa used to stand, and I was prepared for war. The upheaval left the room, trembling. Jason prowled like a trapped beast, fists still tight, while my father sat statuesque, lips pressed so hard they had paled. Relatives shifted, restless, eyes flicking between us like an audience at a gladiator fight. The glass fragments on the table flashed beneath the chandelier, a stark reminder of how near we'd come to tearing each other apart. Beneath the chaos, something unfamiliar took root in me, a quiet, weighty presence, not fear, but responsibility. Daniel, calm as ever, snapped the folder closed and folded his hands. William Carter's intentions are explicit, he said with deliberate steadiness. Emily Carter is the majority heir. The board will meet within the month to confirm her controlling stake in Carter Global. Until then, these directives are legally binding. All eyes swung to me. Dozens of stares pressed down. But for the first time in my life, I didn't shrink. I rose and drew a breath so deep it steadied the tremor in my chest. This isn't about money, I began, my voice firmer than I expected. It never was. Grandpa didn't choose me for what I could take. He chose me for what I could give. Murmurs rose among the family. Aunt Margaret leaned forward, eyes wide. Even one of Jason's closest allies, our cousin Daniel Jr., looked unsure now. Jason sneered, venom lacing his words. Give. You'll give us ruin. You'll give us shame. I turned to him. No. I'll give this family what you never could. Integrity. The words lingered in the air, sharp and heavy. Silence swept over the room. For a heartbeat, even Jason seemed at a loss for what to say. My father leaned back in his chair, exhaling harshly through his nose, a bitter smirk curling on his lips. So, Emily, you think this makes you strong? Power doesn't save people, it destroys them. It destroyed me, and it will destroy you. I met his eyes without wavering. Maybe power broke you because you twisted it for yourself. I'll use it differently. Grandpa didn't leave me just a company. He left me a duty. And I will not throw it away. For the first time, I caught a flicker in my father's expression, a brief flash of doubt. He hid it quickly, but I had seen it. The atmosphere in the room shifted. A board member cleared his throat. If William trusted her, then perhaps we should as well. Jason spun around, his voice cracking. You can't mean that. She'll ruin everything. But even his usual polished confidence was slipping, replaced with a raw, almost childish desperation. I pressed the bracelet against my wrist, steadying myself. Grandpa always told me grit outlasted charm. That's why he chose me, and that's why I won't fail him. Daniel gave me the faintest nod, an almost invisible sign of approval, as though telling me I was finally stepping into the role meant for me. The whispers died down. My relatives looked at me with new eyes, not as the disregarded daughter anymore, but as the rightful heir, the leader. Jason cursed under his breath. My father glared with cold fury, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of either of them. At last, I was Emily Carter, William Carter's granddaughter, and this empire, his empire, was mine to protect. The conference room slowly emptied, like a battlefield after the smoke clears. Relatives shuffled out in clusters, whispers trailing behind them like shadows. Some shot me sharp looks, others studied me with curiosity, and a few gave subtle nods, as though acknowledging me for the very first time. Jason stormed out first, fists clenched, muttering threats under his breath. My father lingered. He stood in the doorway, the chandelier casting his shadow long across the floor, his gaze locked on me. You think you've won, he said quietly, his voice stripped of its earlier thunder. But you'll learn, Emily. This world doesn't reward integrity. It only bows to power. And when that power crushes you, don't say I didn't warn you. I swallowed hard, but refused to look away. Maybe you're right, Dad. Maybe this will crush me, but at least I'll carry it with honor. Something you forgot how to do a long time ago. For a fleeting moment, his mask cracked. In his eyes, I didn't see softness, but recognition. Then he turned sharply and slammed the door behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Shattered glass on the table glimmered under the chandelier like tiny stars, a reminder of the storm that had just passed. My chest ached from the weight of it all, but underneath was something stronger, resolve. Daniel approached, handing me the sealed letter once more. This belongs to you, he said softly. I nodded, clutching it tightly. Thank you for standing with me. He adjusted his glasses, offering a faint smile. Don't thank me, Emily. Thank your grandfather. He believed in you more than anyone. When he left, I stood alone in the vast conference room, staring at the empire now resting on my shoulders. It felt unreal. Just an hour ago, I had walked in as Richard Carter's overlooked daughter. Now I stood as William Carter's heir, entrusted with a $7 billion legacy. I slid the bracelet higher up my wrist, the pearls cool against my skin. In my mind, Grandpa's voice echoed, "You're my fighter." Through the tall windows, the city lights gleamed, skyscrapers rising like steel giants. For years, this city had felt cold, unwelcoming, like I didn't belong in its glittering world. But tonight, it felt different. Not intimidating, waiting for me. I thought of the employees whose futures depended on Carter Global, the communities touched by its reach, and the vision Grandpa had trusted me to carry forward. This wasn't about proving Jason or my father wrong. It was about proving Grandpa right. I won't fail you, I whispered into the empty room, my voice trembling but sure. When I finally stepped outside, the night air rushed against my face. Jason's angry shouts echoed faintly from below. My father's threats lingered in my memory, but neither frightened me anymore. Their reign of fear had ended the moment Grandpa's letter was read. For the first time in my life, I wasn't Richard Carter's unwanted daughter. I wasn't Jason's forgotten sister. I was Emily Carter, William Carter's heir, fighter, leader. And though I knew battles lay ahead, I felt ready to face them, ready to build something worthy of the man who had believed in me when no one else did. My story wasn't closing with Grandpa's will. It was only beginning.